That John?
No.
Just as I went live? Okay.
Uh-uh.
Is that John in like Japanese or something?
No.
What does that say?
That's why it's an Easter egg, bro. It's for those intrepid people who want to figure it out.
How am I supposed to type that in?
That sounds like a you problem, sir.
No, it sounds like you probably for not telling me. Oh my word. Let's see. We are anyone that's here right off the bat. We're getting set up. We're waiting for Dallas to come over for a Culture Box conversation tonight. Should be a fun one. Are you guys drinking anything tonight? I have a mango bubbly.
I don't have anything on me at the moment.
We don't hear you, Drew, all of a sudden.
It's because his head's
I don't
behind
have
him,
anything on it with me at the moment.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm looking to see if I've got a compressor on that I don't realize.
A compressor. A compressor. Where's the compressor?
I've got him paranoid now
Oh,
Okay, how's that?
because I heard the noise. Well, it's fine.
That sounds fine to me.
Okay, I turned something on.
Did you turn on the compressor or off the compressor? I'm very
I hit a
confused.
button.
Oh.
I hit a button. I'm
I hit
not
the low
sure what
cut.
it does, but oh, the low
Oh.
cut just cuts the low end of your EQ.
Yeah. Like
So I don't know if
everything
that's
under-
good or not.
It's
I mean, I
fine.
have one on all the time pretty much through my mixer, but I don't think most of the frequencies it's cutting I'd never really have anyway.
Hey, I'll admit I am an amateur when it comes to sound mixing, and I can't hear what most audiophiles can hear anyway. So
I took some pro audio course at work in college.
Mhm.
So I
I'm
know
surprised the Cellcast sounds as good as it does.
I know enough to be dangerous.
Enough to be dangerous. Welcome, Raiders, everyone coming over from Geek Devotions. How are you all doing? Hopefully quite well. Welcome, Valendro. First, I don't have a first command on the restream. Sorry to disappoint, Geek Devotions.
It occurs to me that the Bible study over at Geek Devotions was about the return of the Ark, and they're raiding you right now. So technically, they're the raiders of the lost Ark.
Nice.
Ooh, that's how that goes. I like it.
So don't
So-
look directly at Dallas when he comes in, or your face will melt.
Oh no! Ah! We are just waiting for said Dallas to join us, and then we'll get started. We have several topics tonight. We're going to be talking about video game history being like on the verge of extinction. We're going to talk about the Godzilla Minus One trailer, the a mobile.
I will
new
melt your face.
Mobile Suit Gundam. Oh my word, Dallas! Can you tell me
Oh,
what?
dang.
By the way, I would love to hear if you can figure out what John's name is. Please let me know, because I want to know, and he won't tell me.
If you figure out what my name is a reference to, Francisco will have to eat one of those anything beans.
Yeah, you know what? I will eat a fire bean. I'll eat one of my fire bean boozles if you can figure out what it means. I mean, John obviously has to confirm. You can't just throw out things that are random. But yeah, so that'll be the challenge for tonight. Make me eat a fiery 5 bean if you can tell me what John's name is. But
Also, Valendro, that is
John's
super
name is
clever.
John.
what John's screen name on Restream is in Japanese or whatever it is. Drew.
But here,
Let's-
the thing about it is, the part of the deal I said was they have to tell me what it's a reference to, not just what it says.
Well, I want to know what it says. You have to tell me what it says and John what it's a reference to. Okay, let's start. You're
Chainsaw
probably
Man.
like- you may have no idea.
What was
what's
that, Dallas?
Chainsaw Man.
It actually is.
It says Chainsaw Man.
No,
No,
it says
it's a-
Dingy.
Oh crap! He got both of it.
Jimmy Jammy, I was expecting to do this now. All
When
right.
you say
I'm-
dingy, that could also be like one of the Super Sentai series, because there was
Okay.
a show called Dingy Man.
No,
So
this
while-
is specifically Chainsaw Man.
while I pick one,
I don't doubt that.
while I pour one out of these, why don't we go around and say who we are, why we're here, what our show is that is a part of Culture Box, and yeah, let's all. I'm Francisco, part of Retro Rewind podcast. Gonna be sort of emceeing tonight. Kick it over to John.
I'm John from Playing Games with Strangers, and I doing something. I don't know. This is only my second time on this show.
Okay.
So I don't know how this works, but I'm gonna kick it on over to Drew from the Cellcast.
I am from the Cellcast. I'm a co-host on that show where we review animated movies and television shows. So come hang out with us there. Dallas.
I'm Dallas. And I'm from
Whoa.
Geek Devotions, the show from Devoted Geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you're loved.
And you like tacos, apparently. All right, I have a green one, which you can't see because it's probably a green screen out, and a red one. I forget what they are. Which ones you guys, Dallas, since you get to pick which one you want me to eat.
Red.
Red. All right, here we go. Oh my gosh!
Are you
Richard
okay?
said-
I think you just made him eat a Carolina Reaper. I've seen that face before.
Bro! You know, dying is a violation of YouTube terms and agreements. Twitch is
My eyes
okay
are
with
watering. I'm
Of
breaking
course
out of
Purple would
sweat.
be okay with it.
but somebody clip that on the Twitch side.
Oh,
Oh, he
I gotta
hiccuped.
There's the hiccups.
Are you okay? Do we need to call your wife?
I'll be fine.
You're as red as John is. Holy crap.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
That had to hurt.
That hurt me listening to it.
So now you have to contend with hiccups tonight, guys.
This reminds me of when I was a youth pastor, and I made my assistant youth pastor eat a Carolina Reaper.
Whew. My
I suspect
goodness
it's a good thing I was not in your youth group, John.
Probably.
Okay. So now that that's out of the way,
I kind of feel bad.
Is it out of the way, Francisco? You act like you're still in it.
Do you need milk?
maybe milk would help.
It does the body good.
A glass of milk
Sure, give me a glass of milk, please.
sounded terrible.
Okay.
The other room
Anyway,
sounded horrendous.
so tonight, guys, we have several topics. First, the first one we're gonna hit. We're gonna kick it over to Drew to introduce. It's about video game history. Drew, take it away as I die.
All right. What would you guys say if I told you that about 87% of all video games ever made are currently unplayable?
I'd
Well-
say I'm gonna die like this.
I would say that some of them are probably in my backlog and I started them, never finished them.
Oh man, yeah,
Sorry, I
right.
did not know that treble could still move.
I would say that I also find 87% of the video games I've played to be unplayable.
Wow.
That's
Okay,
fair.
let me rephrase then. If you were interested in playing, I don't know, say the original E.T. the Extraterrestrial, i.e. the game that nearly destroyed the video game market back in the
Uh-huh.
80s,
I would ask
so
who
you
gave me
couldn't play
drugs.
it right now?
Really?
Even if you wanted to?
I can't find it
uh,
anywhere.
Yeah, from a legal perspective, most of these games have never been reissued,
Oh,
especially the
yeah.
older you get.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's terrible because, like,
Yeah,
they
and
shut down all the emulation stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, technically emulators are still around because Nintendo uses them, but
You mean the ROMs? The
ROMs
are the
themselves
illegal
are
thing,
hard.
yeah.
Well, there are ways to get a hold of things, but that's for the listeners to figure out for themselves. I ain't telling you. And plus, let's face it, piracy is not something we want to do. So yeah, the Video Game History Foundation is trying to get some of the rules changed so we can get video games into libraries, because pretty much the ESA and everyone backed by the Electronic Software Association has pretty much been trying to stop it so they can make as much money as they can off video games.
I
Right.
don't think I realized that video games weren't in libraries. For some reason, I seem to recall they were at some point. But
Well,
maybe
if
I
they
thought-
are in libraries, you cannot. You have to go there and play them on location. Or there are some cases, I know Dallas has gotten some from his library that allow you to take them home. But that's essentially
Mhm.
like a rental market thing.
yeah,
Come to
yeah.
Shreveport.
Yeah, that didn't do me much good.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
go
I
ahead.
I kind of feel like I'm of two minds about this because on the one hand, I'm like, I understand people want to make money off their intellectual property,
Right.
and if that's the case, well, make it available so that people can buy it. I don't know why you don't, and if you're not willing to do that, I don't think it makes it. I, like if let's say one of the famous artists, Van Gogh, was still alive and he didn't want to sell his art to people, I don't think should have to compulse him or
Compel.
compel him. Thank you,
Yeah.
into selling you his art.
Well,
So
playing devil's advocate here for a quick second,
Mhm.
there are like basically 3 excuses they can use to say why they won't do it. Either A, there's a streaming or there's a rights issue to either like music or other intellectual property that
Oh,
they
yeah.
had licensed for the game originally that may have gone out, and they doesn't make sense for them to go and
recode it
rego. It's expensive to go back in and do it. There may be even a technical reason, like say some MMORPGs where you have to have a server going at all times, and the costs just to keep that server up are too expensive just to get it going. And or it could be that it just needs like an accessory that they don't make anymore, like or can't be used, like the light gun. Remember Duck Hunt?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can't hook an NES to a TV and the light and the zapper work.
Yeah, but
modern
it should
TV.
still be available because people can buy old CRT TVs.
I agree, but I mean that's a reason why they're not even releasing it to like services and such.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last time Duck Hunt got a re-release, they did at least do it to the Wii, and you could use the motion sensor to do it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that was
That makes
slightly
sense.
different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are technical problems with doing a lot of that, but
Yeah.
in some cases, and there are rights issues, and it may even be that, especially with some consoles like the Nintendo 64, you really have to massage the emulator to make it work with each individual game, and that's part of what Nintendo ran into on the online service when they first launched those games, and so many of them had technical problems.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they had to modify the emulator somewhat to play the game in a certain way to make certain effects show up.
That makes
So
sense.
all of those things are issues that maybe the original owners of it may not want to have to front the money for, and that's why they don't do it a lot of times. But
Well, here's
still, if you've got a fan community out there willing to go to the work and it's not going to cost you anything, why not allow people to play it on an emulator that they already have and just give them access to the ROM through like a library or something?
I
mean-
have a thought to that.
okay. What's your thought?
That's just that's just the what the article is asking, not me specifically.
No, I get that. However, as a musician, I have a tendency to side with the. Weirdly enough, I'm siding with the industry on this one, in that intellectual property is still the property of that company,
Mhm.
and to say, oh well, why don't you just? It doesn't matter. It's theirs to do with what they please.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's games that I would like to be able to play, but in the same sense, it's like, it's not mine to just go and take it as a illegal ROM or whatever, and then justify the means of saying, well, I can't play it if I don't, if you won't put it out. Well, that's like breaking into your buddy's house and stealing their game and saying, well, I can't play it if you won't let me have it.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of sucks that it sucks that they they don't want to release it because they won't make money off of it if other people sell it. But in the same sense, they're not releasing it to sell it themselves, but it's their right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, with some games, it's not. I'll just go and throw this out there. It's not exactly clear who might still hold the rights to it because some of these companies have gone out of business or sold, and some of these companies may not even know what games what every game they own the rights to is. Just throwing that out there as another issue.
But I very much side on in the camp of whoever owns it, and one, they should have the decision to do what they want with their own property, and two, you can't compel somebody to do otherwise, regardless. I mean,
I was gonna say I don't think we've run into video games are still too new to where
I
any
do-
of it would have gone public domain.
I double
Curious.
checked that, Francisco, because I was
Mhm.
fairly certain I agree with you. And yeah, none of the video games out there have gotten old enough or anywhere near old enough
Yeah.
to be in public domain yet. And most of the other little things that can knock something out of public domain, most of that's gone now. So
Mm-hmm.
because it's now just pretty much down to age.
Yeah. So I'd be curious what happens when that occurs.
So in 100 years,
Is it 100? I thought it was 70. Is
It's
it up to
70,
100
but
now?
it's 70. And I'd have to double check what it is for a corporation because the number is slightly different there.
Oh, okay.
But it's 70 years after the death of the creator.
yeah.
Mm.
And then who's the
So-
creator when it's a bunch of people that make the game? So
At that
That's when
point,
the
it would fall
corporation rule
under.
comes in. But
I
then
think
a lot of your like old Atari games and a lot of your like Commodore 64 stuff would fall under a single creator rule because most of those were made by just one person.
Sure.
And arcade
sure.
games are the same.
What were we going to
But-
say, John?
Well, it's just I think when it's a collaborative project, it falls under the same rules that cinema falls under when it comes to public domain.
Mm-hmm. That
So-
that anyone is able to access it, download it, share it, that
Mhm.
type of thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
So-
the thing is, if the code's gone to the wind, there's no way. If there's no archive of a certain game, it can't ever go into public domain. That's the issue I think that we're
Yeah,
running
because
into.
there is a chance as these games are getting older, the ROMs could be disappearing, and the ability to get them off of cartridges as batteries and other technical issues come about. And none of the companies involved, granted this is their right, are interested at all in preserving any of their games for future use.
in Europe, and I know this, I'm kind of bird walking here, but follow with me because there's a point to it.
I
but-
just need to know what bird walking means.
I'm kind of going outside of what we're talking about. For a
Okay.
point.
Thank you.
Slightly chasing a rabbit.
But basically, in Europe, they're part of their version of HIPAA. Do you know what HIPAA? Do you guys know what HIPAA is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that keeps your medical records like to yourself personally.
Right.
You can't just get them shared
Their,
anywhere. Yeah.
their version of HIPAA comes with a clause that's called a right to be forgotten, in
Mhm.
which you can contact anybody who has any of your information and tell them to erase whatever information they have on you.
Mhm.
So to bring it back to this topic, I personally believe that people who own the rights to a property have the right to erasure. If it's their desire that their property be erased from the zeitgeist, it should be their right. And to push it even further on the form of art, there's the art exhibit that was done by Banksy that was sold in a frame, and as soon as it was sold, the frame, they didn't see that the frame had a built-in shredder, and as soon as the transaction was done, the frame itself shredded the art piece, and that in and of itself was the art display, was the destruction of art for the sake of profit.
Mm.
And it's kind of, it seems like a waste of resources and effort and what other people enjoy. But the thing about it is, if something is somebody else's property, they have the right to destroy it or, whatever.
If I can, let me bump in real quick because
yeah, go ahead, Dallas.
earlier, and who was it in the
Valendra,
chat?
I think, talking about
Sway
MMOs.
Knight. He brought up a really great conversation. He goes, "How about if you pay for a game, or on your game system or on Steam, and then 2 months later they pull the game, so you can't play the thing that you paid for." And this is a real issue. By the way, Palton,
like
welcome to the
PC.
Culture Box, where we're just not just seeing games, we're seeing movies and other systems that you're buying digitally, and they're being removed from services. So you're not even able, it's not even like it's been like transferred over to another service. It's just gone. You've paid money for a product, and now because they've changed their mind, you no longer have that product. And this is becoming a question like, are we purchasing things?
No.
Or are we just leasing things?
Here's the thing.
With
and
digital stuff, you're always just leasing
Leasing.
it.
Unless you
by
buy it
all
on
technical
GOG, in
accounts-
which case you have it because it's DRM free.
Yeah, but by all technical accounts, when you purchase software, even if it's just like for video games, and this is true of music and movies also, you're buying essentially an end user license agreement that
Yeah.
gives you the right to listen or use that particular thing in a certain capacity. And if you get and they can pull that at any time, technically, you're not the software is not yours any more than you can claim a song as yours. You can't-
Or a book. It's not
From a legal
yours. You just own a
perspective, yeah.
copy of it. Yeah, yeah.
That's the reason why I've been such an advocate of physical media.
exactly.
Ever since the digital marketplace has opened up, is that if you are buying everything digitally, you have zero equity in that product that you are purchasing. You see my stack of CDs that are behind me on that bookshelf. I have all of them, and I will have all of them until I die or until they break. And I'm not required to have internet to listen to them, and I don't need any DRM rights to be able to do whatever I want with them. And it's the same with physical media when it comes to video games or movies. It's you have that is equity you have in that product. So if people legitimately want to save video game culture, then they need to invest in physical media rather than digital backup. Because if you have
Okay, I'm gonna fight you a little on that one, because while I agree
Come
physical
at me,
media is
bro.
a great thing, here's the problem. Most consoles that play all this original media are going under, and there are no repair parts for them.
That's because
So-
there isn't enough of a retro market for companies to make third-party parts for them.
I feel like that's become less and less of an issue because
But in a
so
lot of
much a
cases,
retro
you're
market,
talking
but-
about like proprietary like chips and such that they don't even make anymore.
Yeah, they would like
Right, but they
Nintendo
They
would
would
have
have to
release
re-engineer the chip.
the
in
pat.
order
Yeah,
to do it, and That
exactly.
may be too expensive for that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We talk about how much we want to create a reference or some form of memorialized history for gaming culture. But in the same sense, if we're not willing to invest in that, we always say they should do this. Who is they? If it's somebody's priority, they need to be able to invest, to say, I'm going to invest the money to make sure that this game is accessible in the future. If I have to have a hard copy to do that and invest my money in making sure that my chipset works, or that I have the old hardware, if I have to push emulators to be able to read this, then
So here's I think we have to move on to the next topic. But I think
Yeah,
here,
I just want to throw this out there real quick, and then I
All
will
right.
get off to my soapbox.
no worries.
The interview I watched. I mean, the two people who were being interviewed from the Video Game History Foundation I watched. They had tons of the stuff on their back wall, and what they pointed out is that's great for the hardcore collector crowd, but it's becoming increasingly harder for casual market, the people who don't know how to put chips in their machines or keep all the stuff up and running, to actually do this without going the piracy route.
So
That's the issue.
Here is the solution. Here's my solution to you guys. I present to you, and then we're gonna close.
And also bear in mind, I'm playing a lot of devil's advocate here.
No worries. Here's I think I'm essentially taking this from the whole art museum idea. There's actually philanthropists, yeah, that's the word, that create museums that have the physical media, have the systems, they upkeep them, they house the library, and you can go, you pay admission, and you go, and there's actually an arcade and pinball museum essentially here near where I live that has like 1,000 pinball machines and arcade games that it's free play. You just pay like $20 for the day, and you're there as long as you want, and you can go and play all these games. I feel like that's the solution. That's sort of like, gets around all this because then you don't have to worry about personally maintaining retro hardware. You have access. People are able to donate to probably this essentially nonprofit thing, or I don't know if museums are usually nonprofit, but if they are, that it allows this history to be maintained. So I feel like that might be the solution we have to move toward. I'd be curious if there's anyone that thinks that that wouldn't work for some reason, and then we'll move on.
I do think that works, and I have to go ahead and kind of do this shout out. Is in Frisco, Texas, north of Dallas, is the National Video Game Museum, and that is basically what they're doing.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So
okay.
this is already happening. It's just
fantastic.
this was a study to figure out how much is actually gone and missing, and no one knows where it is because no one's doing any preservation. There's very little preservation actually going on.
We have one of those actually here in Spokane. Although it is regulated, it is registered as an actual Jedi temple. So it's zoned as a church.
Okay, that's something
Weird.
So we have lots of people that chimed in. We brought up some of them, Bobo, and you guys had lots of like questions and stuff in chat. We're gonna have to move on to the next one. So sorry that we weren't able to get to all of those. Thank you though for being part of this conversation, guys. We appreciate all of you for being here. But we're gonna move on to, I think next up is John.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah, that's you. Or a Genjay Chainsaw Man guy, whatever your name is.
Denji.
That too.
Man.
Why don't you, while I play this trailer without sound, talk to us about Mobile Suit Gundam Requiem for Vengeance.
Well, you're about to see everything that anybody knows about it. So apparently Sunrise is making yet another new Mobile Suit Gundam series. It's more of a mini series. I believe it's supposed to be 6 episodes for the arc. And it is completely CGI. It's set in the UC timeline, so it shortly after the 1-year war from Mobile Suit Gundam, the original series. And it's completely rendered in Unreal 5.
5. Okay, wow, nice.
Well, if you're watching the screen, you can tell it's 5 because what they're accomplishing there is beyond what I've seen anybody do in 4.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So what are our initial thoughts
I'd love
about
to be able to about it, but the fact of it is it's a 45-second clip of just rando shot.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think about this?
I'm not someone who's really familiar with Mobile Suit Gundam, the universe. I know of its existence, but I've never really watched Mobile Suit Gundam or know much. I've seen like some of you guys do Gunpla on your streams, which is when you create do the modeling for Gundam, little figures. But so I'm curious, as someone who hasn't watched it, should I care about this, or is this only for people that are already in the universe? So that'd be you three.
I'm excited
know
about it.
Universal Century that well enough to make an opinion because I mostly know Future Century, so I'll let Dallas talk.
You said words I don't know, but okay, Drew.
Yeah. So Universal Century is the century that's it's what the original Gundam series is based off of. It's the original timeline. And it's interesting. I think this would be a decent jumping on point for individuals because while there will be the nuances that you may not understand as far as Federation versus Xeon, just from what I'm seeing of it, it looks like this is a series that's going backwards. So it takes place 11 months after everything, but it's doing a lot of recapping from what I'm seeing in the trailer. From what I've read about, this is going to be a boots on the ground, frontline type of miniseries. They did one years ago called MS-08 Team, which took place in the again, it was kind of on Earth, frontline, kind of a jungle type of environment, and it followed a Federation troop of pilots. Mm-hmm. This is following the opposite side, the side that people generally call the enemies, which when you get into Gundam, those lines get real blurred quickly, but they're called Xeon. And it's supposed to, apparently it looks like it's going to be like on the European front of the war. And so I think that even if you don't know all the nuances of Gundam, I think that my hope is the way it plays out is that you'll find the war story fascinating.
Yeah. Very cool. You know what? And I wouldn't be terribly surprised if I would, because a completely different universe. But I was introduced to the BattleTech universe through the game MechWarrior 2.
Yeah.
Speaking of video game history, can't find that anywhere. Come on. Anyway, I used to love that game, and I had never played a previous MechWarrior or anything, or didn't know about BattleTech, but that universe was very compelling, and just playing that game and the way it was sort of the music and the missions, and so you could certainly I could see if it's a compelling enough story and visually interesting, and there's a character or two you can relate to or get behind, then I could see it being someone who doesn't know Gundam at all being interested in something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that makes me think that you should be fine watching it is kind of the approach they took with their last new series, The Witch from Mercury. Which, now correct me if I'm wrong, Dallas, because you were kind of my senpai when I
Is it Senpai or
Senpai, but I wasn't going to correct till somebody mentioned it.
What's funny is he's the one taking Japanese.
Right?
Shut up. Anyway, but the original intent with Witch from Mercury was to kind of garner more attention from people who weren't already watching Gundam. I don't think they would turn on that philosophy or mindset so quickly after that, the intention of that series to go, okay, now we're going to go for a hardcore crowd with something that's going to be completely exclusive to people who watched this series that was made back in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that'd be
that's
a
an
heavy
interesting
lift.
way. I hadn't thought about that, John. I think that's a great. I think that's a great view of it, and hopefully that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because Witch from Mercury is so different from your traditional Gundam franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does make sense for them to go, okay, hey, new crowd, new young people. We did this for you. Let me show you something that's our older crowd may enjoy and bring you into the UC with them.
Yeah, it sounds similar to what Cobra Kai did in terms of, okay, older crowd, you know these characters, but new crowd, there's new characters you may enjoy, and it's a cohesive story that puts more focus on who were the bad guys. Like I think you were saying, Dallas, this seems to be more from the point of view of the Zeons, Zeons, who are the bad guys, quote unquote. Okay. Well,
So
cool.
there aren't bad guys.
There are no bad guys.
in Gundam. There's only two sides, and you just figure
There
out
are
which one you
heroes
identify
and
with.
devils on both sides.
I get
And then
it,
there's
guys.
a person in a mask.
Everyone has
And the
fallen
person in the
short.
mask is a bad guy until their mask breaks.
Everyone has fallen short of the glory of God. I get it. So, why don't we talk about a spiritual element of this?
You
is-
okay, Dallas?
It's funny. It's just Francisco struggling to keep this going down the road.
Would you say seeking revenge? Okay, so I have this impression of Gundam that they're fighting aliens. Is that right or wrong? Is it just people find people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then why do they have massive
There are no
mechs?
aliens in Gundam, is there?
Oh.
It depends on the franchise. The conversation about why they use mechs has always been it changes between franchise to franchise, but basically it boils down to we need bigger and better weapons of war, and
Okay.
the mechs became a thing,
It's escalation essentially. Okay.
basically.
All right. Well, then the question I was sort of thinking when I was coming up with spiritual topics for these, which I totally forgot about the video game one, though we sort of hinted about it. I thought it was like humans versus aliens. So I'm gonna hard shift this into a universe I am familiar with, and Neko brought this up. Is Neon Genesis Evangelion? Have any of you guys seen that?
Those are angels, not aliens, sir.
I mean, they're not humans, is what I'm getting at. Okay,
There's
Drew.
a term called,
Admittedly, I haven't fully watched the whole thing either.
if I could insert a
change later
TikTok
this year, by the way.
into Neon Genesis Evangelion, it would just be the clip of the guy going, emotional damage. Which
I was
sounds like your Cajun accent, by the way.
I was about to say
Asian.
I was about to say I have been told to stay away from that show because it will ruin me,
Oh,
like
okay.
completely break me emotionally.
So
If you can understand it, yeah, I could see that happening. It's some of it's not really doesn't make sense to me when I saw it way back in the
so
day.
when we finish X-Men on the animated series on Cellcast, that is actually our next show.
Have
Oh,
fun with that.
really? Okay.
And
See if your doctor
I only
will give you a
know I've
Prozac
only seen like
prescription.
6 episodes of that show, and I've seen shots from the end of Evangelion, and all I can say is that's a lot of orange juice.
Wow. Anyway, okay, so so here's my question. Let's say aliens invaded, whether they're called angels, whether they're dimensional monsters, what have you. Or let's just say you're a cowboy on the old prairie. I know Dallas loves westerns. Cowboy on the old prairie.
If you
and
just
a-
bring in cowboys and aliens on me, I will disown you.
I didn't mean to. And a bear, kills your family or something.
Alien bear?
That would be kind of cool, actually. Cocaine alien bear. The
So like
next
Chewbacca?
big summer
I am,
blockbuster.
I am into that. Let's make that a thing.
You thought man bear
There's
pig
be
was
a new
bad.
kaiju.
Anyway, would a person that wants, let's say they
Cocalian bear.
for whatever reason they want vengeance on another creature, whether it's a bear, whether it's an alien, what have you, is that sinful? I think we'd all agree that taking the law into your own hands, seeking revenge on another image bearer, another human being, would be sinful. I'm curious where you draw the line for other creatures, other parts of creation. I'm curious, Dallas, what's your thoughts?
Come back to me.
John, I don't want to hear from Dallas. What are your thoughts?
Wow, Drew.
Ron?
Wow, Drew Francisco just shipped us. I'm not sure how to feel about that.
And all he did was just use the past tense of my name.
That's what we get for calling me a Cajun accent.
I didn't say Cajun, I said Cajun.
Don't worry, Francisco. Ain't nobody gonna accuse you of having a Cajun accent. We've heard it.
Just throwing this out there. If revenge is a dish best served cold and revenge is sweet, doesn't that make revenge ice cream?
Yes, I think so. Give me a big bowl of ice cream.
But to get into your question that you just asked, though, I would say it's a heart matter. Where's your heart at in the process? Dallas and I just had a episode of the Gundam Watch where we talked about this samurai and Buddhist warrior concept, which is called to kill without hatred. And so can you reap vengeance against a non-human and it be not sinful? I believe it's possible. I believe it's more likely to be sinful, but not because of that specific object so much as the heart issue that's behind it. I think a lot of sin issues is about intentionality and not so much about the actual act in and of itself. And I think that's the reason why you see, when you look in the Bible, it talks about sin, especially like in the Old Testament, when it talks about when they become aware of sins they weren't already aware of, then they can be forgiven for that. Like they weren't aware that they were sinning at the time. And prior to God issuing the 10 commandments, was sin prevalent? The Bible says sin was prevalent prior to that point, but they weren't accounted to men because the men weren't aware of it. So it's all about intentionality. And as such, being a Christian, and then suddenly there's this dog, this dog came along, bit my leg. Oh, gotta go. I'm gonna go kill that dog now. You're supporting a certain level of malice because you're going after this dog with the intention of destruction. And granted, that's a very loose analogy because there could be more to it. Like, is this dog continually, I mean there's channels to handle it appropriately if the dog in and of itself is a danger to society, where you would want to operate within those channels. But if it's just like, no, I need to be the one to kill this dog, bang bang, that's a hard issue, because you're engaged in the sin of bitterness at that point.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
gonna jump in.
revenge often does more damage to the person seeking it than the actual object of that vengeance. So it's not really good for us to do it anyway, because it's just bad for us.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to jump in, kind of a combination of what Paladin was saying in the chat, but also some other stuff. The Bible does say that vengeance is the Lord's, not ours. And then kind of what John said, it's a hard issue. Like why are we doing this? Because the reality is there is biblical justification for if somebody takes a life, or if an animal takes your life, a life of a person, to essentially return that to them. Genesis 9, starting verse 4, but you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is its blood, and for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. From every beast I will require it, and from man. From his fellow man I will require a reckoning for the life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image. So back in Genesis, God establishes what we essentially would call today the death penalty for individuals who commit murder and for beasts. So the question then becomes about when you're doing this action, why are you doing it? Is it for justice sake, or is it revenge? The hard issue. God brings vengeance. God does these things. Does he use us for injustice? Yes. But again, that depends on your heart issue and what's going on the inside of things. Why are you doing this? Why are you gone full sail on this cocaine space bear? Why are you going after this individual or this thing?
Yeah.
And so it really does, like John said, boil down to a hard issue.
Yeah. I think that is super well put. I can't think of any sort of devil's advocacy about any of that. I think that makes a lot of sense. That like, certainly if Cocaine Alien Bear was attacking more
Cocalian bear,
people,
please.
Cocalian Bear was attacking more people, and you had the capacity and the ability to stop it, I think that would be totally. I think if the line gets blurred, if you also have a heart issue of wanting revenge, and you're also the person best suited to stop the Cocalian Bear. Is that
There
what
you
you
go.
said?
Yes, Cocalian bear.
The Cocalian Bear. Why are you shaking your head, Dallas? So is that a moment where, I guess that's actually, it sounds like it's a place where you'd have to be in prayer with God and be asking for his direction, because it seems like you're the right person, but if you're so caught up in just wanting vengeance for your own flesh, that's tough. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I think that's kind of splitting hairs. If you do the right thing for the wrong reason, you're still doing the right thing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, okay, so when I first got saved, I was in, prior to getting saved, I was into taking prescription meds for what's the word?
I'm assuming not prescriptions.
Recreational use. There we go.
Okay.
Then I got saved. A few months after I got saved, I got my wisdom teeth out. Now let me tell you, I wasn't an addict, so this is not an addiction thing.
Okay.
I had to go to my pastor, and I asked him. I said, I can foresee myself, despite the fact that I would be taking these pain meds for the legitimate reason, that I would also be enjoying it for a quote illegitimate reason. Should I not take my pain meds and just deal with the pain, so that way? And he's just like, no, don't be dumb. He's like, just take the pain meds, and if you like it, you like it. You know what I mean? Because obviously you're going to need the pain meds because of your teeth. If you get something else out of it, that's whatever. He's like, but don't confuse doing the right thing for the wrong reason and then doing, for instance,
Yeah, because
let me take it away from the pain meds
Okay.
illustration. Let's take it back to
cocaine
the
Cocalian bear.
bear. If I have an extreme hatred towards the Cocalian bear, and I see it about to nosh down on a pack of orphans, it would be irresponsible for me to say, well, I can't kill the bear to stop it from eating these orphans because I have hate in my heart for this bear. That would be irresponsible, and I would be doing a greater sin by allowing this thing to happen. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, that's what. See, that's why I'm like that. That's the same issue I'm coming up against. Is like if I'm the best one to stop Cocalian bear, but I am like blinded by rage to end it. Yeah, I may be doing it. Here's what I think. If you end up being that person, I bet you are the instrument of God's wrath, but you probably don't know God so much. Just like Babylon was the instrument of God's wrath on Israel, but he didn't. It wasn't like that they were following God. It's just that he was the vessel that he used to take the Israelites into exile.
Well,
so,
but then you're saying that this one sin is greater than any other sin that would separate us from God. You know, I may have a heart issue with Cocalian bear, and I might have and I do have an issue with gluttony when it comes to eating. You know, and so both things are sin here. But if the result of my heart issue against Cocalian bear still ends up saving people from dying at the hands of Cocalian bear, like if I see it ready to eat a pack of orphans out on a nature hike, and I kill it, and I get some kind of, yes, you know, I have satisfied this internal hatred I have for this beast. You know, it's just to say that I am not super acquainted with God because of that is because you'd be saying, okay, well then by that right, because I have this issue with restraining myself when it comes to eating, you know, if I'm a little bit of a glutton when it comes to my food because I like to fill my sing hole. You know, it's basically saying, okay, well, I still don't know God because of that too, because it's still sin. It's still a heart issue that needs to be dealt with. You know, there's always going to be some sin that separates us from God. That otherwise,
I wasn't trying to say that I guess I was I think I was over logicaling it. Logicaling, yes, that's a word now. Because I was thinking, if you are in that frame of mind where you are just blind on vengeance, I feel like as a believer, most people would take a step back and realize, you know, vengeance is God's, and they may still be the one to do it, but I think they would check their heart and realize, okay, this is actually I think this is where God has me right now, as opposed to I am just going to do this because it feels good to kill this Cocalian bear. Does that make sense? Maybe not, but
I think it's sin if you kill the Cocalian bear for vengeance, but it does say in Genesis 50 verse 20 where this is where Joseph is talking to his brothers in Egypt after you know, they come to get grain after, you know, they kind of tossed him into that pit and sold him into slavery. He says, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So yeah, that's cool. Sorry, I got distracted by
Cocalian bear for you. I don't know.
Yeah, Cocalian bear. Joseph's brothers still sinned when they when they sold him into slavery and all that, but that was still God's plan.
Yeah.
And it turned out for the good of everyone, for the good of all.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a me topic. I'm not sure we came to a end point on it, but something to be thinking about for sure. Um, but I'm curious: is Godzilla going to be for the good of all? Let's
Only
Dallas,
if he's the one to kill Cocalian Bear.
Dallas, why don't you tell us about what new Godzilla movie is coming out?
Yeah, so there's a new Godzilla film coming out called Godzilla Minus One, which seems to be taking place. Well, it says, frankly, in the thing, it takes place in the original timeline. This is like right after World War One, or World War Two. It's
World War
in
II, yeah.
aftermath, and Japan's in the recovery stage of everything. And this seems to be when Godzilla attacks. We don't have much information about it past that. There's been several people who have done some deep dive conversations through looking at the clips and see what's taking place. You guys see it on the screen right now, but this does seem to be taking place in Japan, in post-war Japan. This is and Godzilla really is terrifying terrifying in this, tearing out the place. He looks big. He kind of looks like, to me, shout out to Drew because he posted up in my Discord images of this Godzilla. It seems to be a kind of almost a cross, in my opinion, of the original Godzilla concept design and then the Godzilla from Legendary series.
The
And
like the
I'm feeling
the
it.
US,
And there's a
like,
little
King
bit of
Kong.
shin in the skin texture too.
Yeah, a little bit of
Okay.
shin. So that's a great way of putting that. It seems to be a combination of shin, the original Heisei, or the original Showa, and then the Legendary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think it's technically in the original universe. This is technically going to be a full reboot, it looks like.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it takes place like in the original time frame is what I meant to
Yeah,
say.
time frame, yeah.
Because
About 10 years before, but yeah.
yeah. So that's what we're looking at, and I'm here for it. I'm pretty excited about it.
And what's cool is we're actually getting a US release date instead of having to wait a year like we normally do for these things.
Well, are they just simul releasing it? I guess
It's gonna
you
be a
could say?
month delay. It looks like
Oh,
from what
okay.
I'm reading.
Yeah,
up.
it's a month delay because the Japanese one is coming out like on Godzilla Day, and then we're getting it a month later.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the original Godzilla design for the 98 Godzilla?
I've seen
Not what it ended up being, but the
Yeah.
original design before the two idiots in charge changed everything.
I don't think
I've
so.
seen various like sketches of what concept art. I'm not sure I saw a finalized one.
Because that's kind of what I am feeling when I look at this Godzilla. If you look up Godzilla 1998 original design.
Okay, thank you. I'll look that up while you guys are talking about it. So it sounds like you might be excited about this, John.
I have feelings about it. My biggest question is if they're putting this in the original timeline and the US is getting its own release date, I'm almost wondering if they're shooting an English version side to side with the Japanese version like they did with the Raymond Burr original Godzilla.
I don't know,
don't
because
know
the
yet.
Raymond Burr Godzilla it wasn't like hey, a direct dub, but it was a in music terms, chopped and screw version of it.
Yeah.
Like it's when you put them together. We had this conversation in our private chat with my team the other day. Branson was talking about maybe taking his son to go see it, and he said he's seen the original Godzilla. I said, well, did you see the one that was in English, or did you see Gojira? He's like, no, we saw King of the Monsters. I was like, okay,
That's a different
that
movie.
is very different. Like
It's a
it's
very
almost a
different
different
movie.
story, different feel. You get a concept of it, but you need to watch. That is terrifying, John. That we've brought up here on
That's
the screen.
that was the original design for 98 Godzilla.
Yeah,
I think I somewhat prefer that to what we actually got for 98 Godzilla.
I
Well,
don't
yeah.
know.
Even
Bro.
though it's got kind of a platypus mouth.
Bro, Jurassic Park was a better Godzilla movie than 98 Godzilla.
98 Godzilla is not really Godzilla. It's more Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, whatever the name of that movie
Ferris
is called.
Bueller and the Really Big Lizard.
That too.
If anybody wants to hear
I just know that's a lot of fish.
If anybody wants to hear a extended conversation about 98 Godzilla, go check out the bottom shelf.
That'd be a
Yes,
fun
go
one to
do
torture
it.
Francisco with too. We
I
ought to
think
do that.
We need
Oh,
to
we
have.
haven't we haven't
we-
technically covered this Godzilla on Retro Rewinds, but
We
it
need
was
to, we need to
was
have
a different
Francisco on
conversation.
the bottom shelf at some point, Dallas.
I'd be down
We
for
do.
that.
Oh, you're right,
be down
Francisco.
for
It was
two if it ever
the
comes
summer
out.
free. It was on YouTube.
Exactly, Dallas.
It just sounds like that's free stuff to throw up on your feed, bud.
I
It's there.
suppose it might be. Okay, so I hear pretty much all you guys are excited about this. I'm sort of ambivalent. I think the more I see about it, more I hear about it, I'm very I think this happens with a lot of Westerners that are certainly interested in anime. They have this sort of idealized version of Japan and history of Japan, and I certainly fall prey to that. So the idea that this takes place in a very real, grounded Japan right after World War II, I think that's the most compelling part to me. I'm not. I like the idea of Godzilla as a hero type character, like versus the other monsters or what have you, and it doesn't seem like that's what this is. So I'm not sure how to feel about that.
This is back to OG Godzilla.
Yeah.
This is back to Godzilla being more of a force of nature than
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah.
Which I think they tried in the Legendary series. They kind of they're
kind of
playing
did
with
that.
it.
They kind of tried to have their cake and eat it too with
the Muhus,
2014
Mujus,
Godzilla.
Mojus.
and then he
Mudos.
went full
Mudos.
hero for the King of the Monsters.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but even still, the way that the storyline played out, it was still a I'm defending my territory, and this is my territory, which is Earth.
Well, and that's kind of how all the quote unquote Titans are being handled in the
Mm.
Legendary movies. So
Mhm. What other Titans are there? I feel like it's just Godzilla and King Kong.
Mothra's in it.
Mothra, Rodan, the
Yeah.
Muto, all three Muto that we finally see, King Ghidorah, and
No. Ghidorah
thousands of others.
is Ghidorah really a Titan though? He's not from Earth.
he's a space Titan.
Okay.
By monarch definition,
He's a
which is where the
Cocalian
Titan
bear.
came from.
Godzilla
Technically,
versus
Mecha
Cocalian Bear.
Godzilla's in that too. So,
Okay, I wasn't sure.
except that's Kevin's head, which makes me annoyed.
And now
anyway.
you know.
So okay, let me ask you guys this real quick, then we'll get into sort of a more spiritual weak connection, speculation, whatever you want to call it about this. What about this iteration of Godzilla has you the most intrigued? Like I said, it was the sort of the actual historical setting. Drew, how about you?
So I'm gonna go kind of fanboy on this, and I'm just happy to see a Godzilla movie in a theater again.
Oh, okay.
Because it's just fun for that. But then from a movie goer perspective, yeah, the whole idea is like, okay, we're gonna see a Godzilla attacking Japan at the lowest they could possibly be. I mean, right as the U.S. occupation is actually starting for the most part. That's intriguing to me also.
Mhm.
And plus, I don't know. This just looks like it'd be a fun way to reboot the franchise if that's what's actually happening.
Okay. How about you, John?
Here's the deal. I'm excited for it because Japan, and I mean this with all reverence, Japan is okay with getting weird. And I like my fiction to get weird. You hear it a lot on some of the other shows that I do. You okay there, Dallas? You look like you got Graves syndrome all of a sudden. Graves disease all of a sudden.
I'm just amening you over here, brother.
And so I see it and I'm like, okay, Japan's making a new Godzilla movie and they're going outside the box with this one. Let's get weird. Let's pour all your weird down on me. I heard about the weird that was in Shin Godzilla and I'm ready for it. It's like, let's do this.
I
Let's-
love the weirdness of bureaucracy. It's so compelling to me.
Did you watch Shin Godzilla?
Yes, I've seen Shin Godzilla.
No, I'm
Shin
talking about.
Godzilla
I'm talking to
was
John.
No.
Okay. Oh,
No, I'm just
Oh,
talking
man.
about the monster design.
oh, the monster design's interesting for sure.
I've heard about the bureaucracy bit.
Yeah.
So
Which
I
I think
thought it was
is
fascinating.
I get the there was a podcast that's now defunct that Nathan Marchand was a part of. I don't know if it's okay to mention what it was, but when he was doing that one, Nathan Marchand of Monster Island Film Vault, when he was doing that one, they talked about Shin Godzilla, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting that that's what they're going for with this sort of it as an allegory to Fukushima, I believe. So I thought that was interesting, but regardless, Dallas, did you say what you're looking forward to?
I'm just a big fan of the concept of giant lizards fighting. I like dinosaurs. I'm really nothing special in my opinion. I enjoy some of the deeper conversation of Godzilla, the deeper lore of what the original Godzilla represented, which was the both the aftermath of Nagasaki Hiroshima and the conversation about the responsibility of scientists with their creation and also just the power but fear that Japan had at the same time. And so I enjoy the undertones of certain things. Shin Godzilla fascinated the mess out of me because of the political conversation that took place in it. And again, monsters fighting and stuff like that. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and honestly, but yeah. So I'm excited to see this return to the 40s and 50s time frame. I'm excited to see what takes place in the storyline. We don't have a lot of story yet. We know that apparently whatever this is, it brings Japan to a lower point than where they're already at during the Reconstruction era.
And you know what? That goes right into what I'm curious, spiritually speaking, is there something that could bring us lower? Like I'm curious, like if you were to say like, okay, what does Francisco minus one? What does John minus one? Drew minus one? Dallas minus one? What does that look like to you guys? Is it you lose your family, you lose your house, you lose your life? Like what is minus one to you guys? Because that's an interesting title for this. It's like they're already at their lowest point, and then Godzilla comes and knocks them down even lower. But can you really ever get into the negative in your life? So whoever wants to take a stab at that first.
This is a weak connection.
Shalom.
So I'm going to go to point us out to Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. So that taking that mindset, the conversation, to be minus one, just kind of the mindset of it is to give of ourself, to put aside my personal will, my desires, things that make me feel comfortable for what Christ has, what God has for us. And that includes a lot of things. As a Christian, there's freedom in Christ, but that freedom comes with certain guardrails. Now, the problem is a lot of people go, well, I don't like rules, I like restrictions, but you understand that the things that Christ has put in place, they're guardrails to keep us safe, to keep us not just on the straight and narrow so we can enter into heaven, but to keep us safe from what the enemy has for us, so that we can be successful, so we can be who God created us to be. And that requires us going, my personal flesh says, I want to do this. I think it'll be okay to do this. It doesn't hurt anybody else, but in the long run, it does hurt. It does cause issues for people. It does cause issues for you as an individual. And so to live minus one means to put those things to the side and live as Christ has for us.
Okay. That's awesome.
So, not to be outdone, but I have a verse to go with this too, which is John 3:30, which is he must increase but I must decrease. So you ask, what is it that brings us minus one in life, my dude? We're always seeking another minus one.
Right.
The ultimate minus one is for us to let go of everything that the presence of John may decrease so that the presence of Christ may increase. Because we were created to bring God glory. So when we I don't want to say humiliate ourselves, but when we humble ourselves,
Good word.
when we humble ourselves, we lower ourselves before the glory of Christ, essentially. So yeah, so what does minus one look like? It looks like a healthy Christian lifestyle, because we should be continually humbling ourselves before Christ in servitude, because when we become Christians, we essentially enslave ourselves to him. But it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think us as Christians would all affirm that. I'm gonna, well, Drew, before I put a grenade out there, what's your thoughts on what minus one means?
I don't want to go too deep into this since I kind of already recorded my thoughts for Daily Nerd Devo about this trailer.
Where can people go check that out, Drew?
Go look up Daily Nerd Devo and you'll hear my thoughts, but it's not too much different. If you mix John and Dallas, it's kind of that.
Okay.
That would be an ugly baby, sir.
I don't disagree.
Oh, I thought you were gonna summarize what you said.
No, I literally just this like mix John's thoughts with Dallas's thoughts.
Gotcha.
Basically, that's my thoughts.
All right. Gotcha. So here's what I would say to that. I believe, and it's been a long time since I've taken a world religions class, so I may get this wrong, but I think it's Buddhism where you're supposed to become sort of empty yourself out, become less and less and less. So how is that different from Christianity? Because that sounds like what you guys are saying, become less of you and more of, I mean, the Buddhists would say the universe. We're saying Jesus. What's the difference?
The difference is Jesus, sir.
The difference is Jesus is eternal while the universe is not.
Well, Nirvana, whatever it is, I don't know.
Nirvana is
Oneness.
just a band from Seattle.
Oh my gosh.
Nirvana ended back in 1994.
You guys know I'm not talking about the band. So, well, I mean,
admittedly, the band Nirvana has had more of an influence on me than actual Nirvana. So,
fair.
And that's only because of a good Weird Al song.
It smells like Team Spirit.
No, smells like
Nirvana.
Oh, it smells like? Oh wait, it smells like Team Spirit, the Nirvana song?
Yes.
Okay.
And Smells Like Nirvana is the Weird Al parody.
Okay. Thank you. So, all right.
Here's the thing.
The way you're case. It's because it's Jesus. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. The difference is Jesus, and I'll tell you this: the folly you're running into is in your own question, because you're putting Jesus and Buddhism on the same platform. The way you state your question is you're stating that both are equally valid. But if you plug your power cord into an outlet that is in line with your house's electricity versus an outlet that is not connected to your house line, you're going to have different results despite the fact that you're plugging it in. That means the power behind that outlet is what defines whether or not there's going to be a difference, despite the fact that the outlets in and of themselves are equal in being the same thing. So Christians and Buddhists are equal as far as the fact that they're human, but what the difference is the power that's behind it.
Okay, that's fair. How'd you dissuade someone from saying what'd you say, like, why is Jesus more powerful than Buddha or the universe? Or, I mean, how'd you address something like that? Like, how'd you prove that? I know that's not really provable, really, but I'm just curious how you get at that.
I like how like this is like devolved like so far away from the original question about what the original minus one. because now we're getting into
Welcome
like
to
some
spiritual speculations.
yeah. Now we're getting into some major apologetic conversations about
right.
different sort of thing. The differences between certain things is like there is no body of Christ. Jesus was resurrected and ascended. We have hundreds of years of church history and documentations that show that Jesus was resurrected. There were witnesses there that were there. The claims that his body was stolen and all those other things don't check out when you bring up the fact that if the disciples found out that if the disciples had been found out, they would have been executed. So why would they live for this lie? There was no power. There was no benefit for them. All of these things point to the truth of who Jesus is as a whole versus Buddha, who was, by all rights, from what I've seen, and is revered as a great teacher, a respectable individual. And again, there's probably stuff that I don't know about. So I have asterisks there as to all the truths about him, but I will say that he's dead. There's a body, and he has no power. He was a teacher of things, but he wasn't Lord. All these other great philosophers, Gandhi and all these other cats, they were people, and they're dead. There's a body. Whereas as Christians, we worship Jesus, who was man, but he was divine. And so in his divineness, while he did die, he was resurrected 3 days later and ascended to the right hand of the Father. And we as Christians await for his next return.
So
and
that's
we live
actually.
for that.
Oh, sorry, Dallas.
That's it.
Were you done or okay?
Yeah.
Well, so sort of going off that to bring it back, I never really answered the question of what's my minus one, and for me, it would actually be sort of essentially not being connected, like to go with your analogy, John, to the power of Jesus, or grafted onto the vine of Jesus is a very churchy way of thinking about it. Because if I don't, when I die, then I'm in a minus one territory, because I will be judged for hell and the full wrath of God, because I can never do anything of my own accord to make up for all the sin in my life. I need Jesus to pay that price for me. So it's really the loss of my whole being, my soul. And I'm not saying soul as in something that's, we're not going to get the soul sleep tonight, but I'm just saying, I believe your soul is completely integrated in your body. They can't be separated. Anyway, all that, but I'm just saying colloquially, I'm not going to lose if I lost my soul, that would be the minus one. And my scripture that I want to just highlight from that comes from Matthew 10:28, where I believe this is Jesus speaking. Do not fear those who kill the body, but are unable to kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. So that's what sort of my minus one looks like. Yeah, that's your guys' minus ones are much more inspiring. Mine is very self-focused, but at the end of the day, we are sort of our stewardship sort of at the very least starts with ourselves. How we care for our bodies, how we move them about in the world in a way that glorifies God. So
I would go as far as to say that the ultimate Christian minus one, however, would be to die and be in the presence of Christ. As the Apostle Paul put it, to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ironically, as Christians, our biggest minus one is also our plus one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you say plus one, you're more like talking at a party. You're like, oh, I got a plus one now. He's with me.
Hey, I wouldn't mind a plus one.
Actually,
Jesus
technically,
is plus one.
Technically, I was about to say technically we're his plus one. So.
True. That is very true.
There you go. That's how I get to the Wayne feast. Bwahaha.
And this has been.
This is a weak connection.
There you go. Any other thoughts on that? Any other thoughts on that, guys? Like
it's been a long minute since
Godzilla?
I've had a conversation like that with anybody. So I'm glad to be able to get my to be able to kick out my apologetics a little bit, especially given who I learned apologetics from. So
fair. Well, if you guys are able to stay on for 20 more minutes, we can hit the writer's strike, or 15 more minutes, we can hit the writer's strike. But if not, we can just end there.
I'm
got
down
time.
for that, but I have to use the restroom.
Okay. Go you. Well, John, Drew, how are you guys feel though?
I'm
I'm
fine.
not thinking of Niagara Falls.
I don't have to stop streaming to go stream.
Okay.
I
We'll
do.
wait for you. We'll wait for your return, Dallas.
Let's chat with the people in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much, Ashley, for being here. Sean for being here. Baba, if you're still here. Paladin. Yeah. Why don't you guys share what would be your -1? How do you sort of think of that as a whether you're a person of faith or not? What would be your -1? Is that? Oh, that's Godzilla vs. Cthulhu. Okay, that's what.
Yeah.
I was wondering what that was back there. By the way, Drew, did you realize Godzilla's right behind you?
You know, the funny thing is ever since I put that picture up, I've had the feeling something is behind it. So I may have to change it before I go nuts over here.
Right. Yes, we are chatting with you, Ashley, right now.
To answer your earlier question, Sean, Gamera is a kaiju, but he is technically from a different company, so he's not in the Godzilla universe.
Is Gamera the beetle, the turtle?
Gamera is the giant turtle.
Okay.
Sort of like Conga.
I don't know what that is either.
Conga?
Yeah.
We need to get
Congo-
you into more kaiju films.
Conga was a King Kong ripoff.
Wait, Congo? Michael
Conga.
Crichton's Congo?
No, Conga.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Female
Look at-
Kong.
Look it up, bro.
Now you want
I
me
don't
to
know.
look things up? Oh my gosh. Is it spelled with a K or a C?
No, it's like the Gloria Estefan song.
That
Come on,
doesn't
baby,
help
buddy, we
me.
can do that conga, don't you think? What?
Oh, okay. I think that's with the C then.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what comes up. These don't look like kaijus.
Maybe if somebody had better search skills and put conga.
You
movie-
said Conga.
Conga
I typed in-
kaiju.
All right. I'll try that.
Actually, that might not come up with anything either. Now that I think about it.
It's
Oh,
a giant Conga thing.
It is with a K. I apologize.
Ah! Okay. Okay. This thing? This is it? This guy?
Yep.
Okay. So he's a King Kong ripoff. That's what you said?
Mm-hmm.
It's Conga.
It is Conga. That looks more like King Kong versus
Godzilla.
Godzilla.
That's why it
It's
says King Kong.
That's why his face looks like it's been run over by a forklift.
Exactly, guys. Exactly. All right. So, Writer's Strike. I had an image for that. Not that one. Not that one. There you go. Okay. So, for those that may not be aware, in the States right now, the what's it called? Wait, did we have a
Writers
issue?
Guild of America.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just Stream Elements is saying we're live now all of a sudden. Oh no, that's something else. Okay. Screen Actors Guild, Screen Actors Guild, and the Writing Guild that do most of the TV, movies, etc. Are on strike, and I've heard mainly the main argument I think is they want the main arguments I've heard, and I'd be curious if you guys have heard something else, is that they want more money. They want to be paid a fair wage, whatever that means, and they don't want their likenesses to be used for to be input into AI. What was that?
I think you're combining both unions.
And they want
there.
residuals from streaming. They want better deals. Yeah, more money is that sort of goes
I
into
can
that.
give you an example.
Ashley's gonna give us an
Ashley, we
example.
can't hear you.
Do you want to come over and tell us?
Okay. The only
Hold on, guys.
I just want to give an example as to why they're trying to get more money. So I'll give you an example of a television show where residuals actually pay annual salaries to actors. So back in the day, the cast of Friends struck an incredible deal for residuals where it was about 2% on syndication. And annually, these 6 actors earn on average $20 million per year just for reruns of Friends in syndication, whereas most actors in syndication, not in syndication now, but people who get residuals from streaming, they earn pennies. They might be lucky if they earn $2 to less than $200. So people are in multiple episodes of even streaming they're on streaming services, they're doing multiple seasons of series and they're getting next to nothing. And an example is there was this actress who was on Orange is the New Black. She did 4 guest appearances on Law and Order SVU.
Is this the one who showed herself and that's why she wants...
No. But this actress guest starred on Law and Order SVU 4 times, and she makes about $200 a year from the syndication deal in the 4 episodes that she's been on, compared to Orange is the New Black, with her being in 50 plus episodes of the Netflix series. She made $2 in her residuals.
Okay.
So people aren't making necessarily fair things in from residuals. And as far as the Writers Guild goes, for the most part, most writers in the Writers Guild, they don't make enough to sustain themselves as writers, so they're having to work secondary jobs.
Okay. Thank you, my love.
I've watched a lot.
This just in from our correspondent Ashley, on the ground at the writer's strike, but not really. So, guys, I have like I was saying earlier, a hot take about all of that. But let's hear from you what you guys make of the writers and actors strike. Have you ever been in a strike? I never have. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Let's start with...
I don't have a union job.
Have you ever had a union job?
No.
Okay. What do you make of this, though, Drew?
Well, I mean, if doing the same job that they were doing for cable television, and then doing it for streaming is netting them less money, that's probably not a good thing. If they need the money, just they need the money to survive, just as anyone else does. Now they're having to do more work, not just doing the writing, but having to work like other jobs like DoorDash and such. I mean, if they have if the companies have the ability to pay them better, they should.
Okay.
It's just my thought.
John.
I have a feeling I have a similar hot take to yours, Francisco.
Okay. Why? Why do you think that? I hope that they are at polar opposites to make for an interesting conversation, but they very well could be the same. But go ahead. I
differ from a lot of people, and this is going to kind of get into political economics a little bit. I apologize, but I have a tendency to fall off very pro capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a product and you can sell it for X amount, or if you can pay somebody for X amount, it's your decision. It should be your decision how much you sell something for or how much you pay somebody for something. If there's somebody that's willing to buy your product for that amount, or if there's somebody who's willing to work for X amount. I believe that these are problems that are solved by people working on an individual basis. So if screenwriters or actors want specific stipulations within their contracting, then that should be a part of their initial deal that they strike with whatever studio for whatever project that they're on. Unfortunately, not everybody can see in perpetuum in the future as far as technological updates that changes the means by which this product is being consumed. That's just an unforeseeable thing. That's the risk you take by working with who you work with. You can always try to bring them back to the table to renegotiate the terms on that specific product. But in the same sense, you found the agreement to be amicable to you at the time. So to renegotiate going forward, I'm fine with. But ultimately, the state of things right now with them being on strike, I don't care. Obviously, I am for them not wanting their likenesses being used in CGI without their consent.
Yeah.
That's
I'm for that too.
That's
or their
rude.
writings, for that matter.
Or voices, yeah.
Right.
All that.
But that said, for the most part, for everything else that was listed there, I genuinely don't care. Renegotiate it on your own contracts. It's got nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, if they renegotiated their own contracts and created a culture where they said, no, you're going to pay us X amount, that would reshape the pay structure rather than having to make a big public to do about it. It's sort of like when the D&D geeks revolted against WotC when it came out to the OGL update. People
X
got
on
to
your bingo cards, guys.
Yes.
D&D and WotC.
okay.
I'm kidding. I'm
Just saying it happens a lot.
But people basically said nope, and we're not going to, and they stopped. They basically, there wasn't a bunch of people protesting outside of WotC. Everybody just dumped their D&D Beyond accounts, and all of a sudden they don't have a player base to exploit. So it's just like, no, better stop exploiting the player base then. And it went away. So if they instead of, having a fit on the street, if they basically just said, nope, I'm just going to go where people appreciate what I'm doing and are going to operate with me on these terms, these studios would be at risk of going out of business, and thus their arm will be twisted too. So it's just
I've got a really stupid question, John. How is that not a strike?
Because you're basically what they're doing.
Because all this came up when they were doing the renegotiations with the Producers Guild.
I get that, Drew. But what I'm saying though is it doesn't.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here for the most part.
You sure do like the devil a lot, Drew. Do I need to pray for you?
No, that's not what I mean, and you know that.
I mean, but what I'm saying,
I'm with you, and that I frankly don't care what the writers and actors get paid, other than I do believe they should get paid a fair wage for the work they do.
What I'm saying is that what they're doing right now is basically them saying, I don't want to be made uncomfortable to create a better environment. I just want a Band-Aid for right now. If these actors and writers were going to say, fine, if the major industry does not want us, we'll jump down into the indies. Will operate within the independent market, who will respect us more. Stay indie, everybody. To make the point, that would make more of an impact on the industry than just holding out so they're not inconvenienced by lower pay for a time being to make a point. And that's the reason why I genuinely don't care, is because they're not trying to change the culture. They're trying to change what is most immediate to them.
Fair. Dallas, let's give your 2 cents here.
So do people deserve to get paid proper amount? Yes, absolutely. And hearing the stories about what's taking place, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And there needs to be renegotiation if you can make that happen. But if you can't, then I mean, how do I put this delicately?
Or bluntly.
I'm kind of in the camp of John, where it's like, if they're not going to do it, leave. And once enough people leave a service, once enough people have made a change to do something different, things happen. Right now, the monopoly for media is Hollywood. It is, that area, that industry. So if you leave and you create a different space and you put the effort into it, it can be something better. You yourself are in the middle of that, Francisco, with the various platforms that you're on, purple, red, blue, green, all these other platforms that you're on. Light blue, you're on light blue. Nobody even knows about it.
In Francisco's universe,
light blue / sometimes Doge colored. Yes.
Yes, but those are built up because people don't like it. Right now, we're seeing a thing where, there's this new platform called Threads, and people are like, "Is this gonna be worth it? Is it not?" Because people aren't happy with Instagram, or not Instagram,
Twitter.
It's like, do you want Facebook or do you want Twitter? Because that's basically all Threads is Facebook's version of Twitter.
Exactly, and so people are leaving because they don't want to do it. Now, this is where the interesting thing is. There's another platform called Mastodon that people left Twitter to go do. And it blew up for like a week, and now it's dying down again because people don't like work.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. It's hard. Macedon, there is a huge learning curve to it. There's a lot to it. People don't want to deal with it. They're like, well, I mean, it's already here.
I don't
And
want to be
so-
part of a federation. Was it Star Trek?
But in with this whole thing with the writers and the screen actors, they want to be part of a space that has already systems built in, because they see that going independent is hard. And I'm not faulting anybody for trying to fight to correct something. If everyone jumps ship, if everyone who knows what to do leaves, then nobody's there to correct what's going on there. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of this both in situation. And my encouragement for people who are in this situation is, you know, if you feel like this is the space you need to be, fight for it. Sure, go on strike, do what you're going to do. But remember, at some point you have to eat, and you have to do some stuff. And maybe it's time for you to leave that career and pursue something else, or do something else while you pursue that career in a different area. Independent films, independent networkers, and stuff like that. I mean, for crying out loud, we're in a social media age right now where you can have a whole channel of you putting together Legos and blow up overnight. And whereas people who put hard work in it don't. That's another conversation for another day. But
But like you're saying, all four of us are examples of people that we have day jobs, but we put even more hours into other projects. So it's not like we're not asking people to do things that we're not doing ourselves, is what I think I'm getting at there.
And here's the frustrating part of it for me is right now with what's going on with it, we are in the perfect environment to create something new, something different. Usually it's in times of duress where new ideas come forward and create new things. You know, podcasting wasn't always a thing. It was kind of something people turned to when people felt like public access radio was taken away from them. And so, you know, if you're really that upset with the business culture of cinema, create something. These people are creative types. If they really wanted to leave their stamp and really pursue the big bucks, instead of being like, we want it how it always was, do it like it was, only more, you know, find something different. Take those talents, step back and reallocate how you use them.
Yeah.
You know, you're a storyteller. Find a new way to tell a story, a new way to create something to put into somebody's hands, or to communicate the story into somebody's mind in some place. I'd be willing to bet that these people could probably become amazing video game script writers.
But John, that takes work. So, no,
I do want to clarify. We're saying that we're not saying that none of these cats work. As Ash said, a lot of these cats, they're working 2 or 3 jobs and pursuing their passion of being in this environment. But again, it is one of those things like, fight for it, yes, but if it comes down to it, you need to be willing to switch gears, either create something new or pursue a different path altogether.
I wasn't trying to make I wasn't trying to make the case that they're not working. I was just trying to say that to make something new, to create your own like YouTube sitcom series or your own podcast or your own whatever it is, a creative endeavor is hard, especially if you're working on it solo as a passion project and you're just hoping that it takes off. That is a hard road to till. So this is so Ashley's bringing up the whole streaming thing, and I wanted to. I feel like we're just going on and on and on. And then there's something that's been burning on me that I really want to get out there.
Well, you just get it off your chest, Francisco.
Nah, well, let's see. Ashley says streaming is a new frontier. You can't expect what happened with traditional television to carry over to the new model. Everyone needs to work together to find a solution that has better benefits. Okay, perfect. So, that
I think we can all agree on.
And I'm going to attempt to both get out what I have to say and also bring some Bible into it. So we'll see how this goes, or if I crash and burn. All right, so draw your guys' attention to Matthew verse 21 1 through 16. I'm going to give you the Francisco paraphrase of this because it's rather long. It's 16 verses.
So you're reading from the Rick James version?
I'm reading from the NASB paraphrased by Francisco Ruiz version. That's what I'm doing. But
Francisco's message.
this is a parable that Jesus spoke
Francisco's Passion Translation.
about laborers in the vineyard. I can mute you all if I need to.
I hope it's
Roy
Francisco's more
translation.
biblical than that.
Essentially what happens is I'll do the setup. Jesus says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. When he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius, which is like a day's wage, for the day, he sent them into his vineyard." So this landowner does this throughout the day. He does it late morning, afternoon, evening, and late into the night. For everyone he agrees, "Hey, I will pay you a denarius for this work." And then at the end, the people that were working all day said, "Hey, why are they getting paid the same we did? We worked harder." And now I'm going back to the scripture, and it says, "But he answered and said to one of them, 'Friend, I'm doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go. But I wish to give this last man the same as you. It is not lawful for me to do what is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with what is my own?'" Sort of going to what the video game conversation earlier. "Or is your eye envious because I'm generous? So the last shall be first and the first last." So this is more. I'm co-opting it for this conversation. What Jesus is getting at is that essentially you can become a Christian at any point in your life. You're still going to be received into the kingdom. It's not like you're necessarily going to be there aren't like Christians and super Christians based on when you became a believer. But why I'm co-opting that for this conversation is Dallas, you brought up or actually I think several of you brought up this, like, people should pay what they deserve, but who sets that? And in this streaming landscape, especially with so many so the reason I picked the image I did this one right here, that it's the striking image. You'll see in the corner is The Witcher on Netflix. And there's been, I watched the first season of Witcher. I thought it was very interesting, but a lot of fans have fallen off because the writers, the showrunners wanted to do their own thing. They didn't want to respect the source material. They just wanted to do their own thing and write it their way. They even, Henry Cavill has said that he is like, "Hey, you guys aren't really following the book," and they didn't want to listen to him. So that's one of the reasons leading to him leaving the show. And so here's the thing. So you have streaming. It's great. Netflix is great when it's the DVDs and it starts with, and then it gets going and has some great shows, Stranger Things and what have you. So you have a pie of let's say $1,000 and everyone wants a piece of that pie. I get that. And so let's say the actors get paid $100. Like all the actors on a Netflix show get paid $100 of that $1,000 pie. Now, when streaming, there's so many more options of streaming and fewer people are on, say, Netflix, they're getting less money. Now they only have $200. Well, the actors still want $100 or more because of inflation. How is the Netflix supposed to pay? And I'm not saying it's to that extreme. And yes, you could say the big CEO, fat cast are getting paid way too much. I totally get that. I'm just saying if there is a set amount of money to be distributed and now there's less money, how can you expect to still be paid the same, if not less money than what you're being paid
Francisco, you're asking an unfair question in the fact that we don't have the information at hand to be able to
let's say that's
what's actually taking place.
Let's say that is the information, though.
So you're asking us, a hypothetical situation away from what's actually happening in society.
I don't think that's too far away from what is happening, but let's say that is happening.
Can I put something out here right quick?
Okay.
Not the part of the issue is the writers and actors, they don't even know what they're supposed to be getting in residuals because the streaming companies won't even tell them what the viewership numbers are.
And that's
they don't
another
even know
problem.
If they're getting paid the amount their contracts currently say. That's the other part of this issue.
That's a horrible problem. Yes,
I think we're at that part of the math test where we're going to have to write in the margin not enough information to solve.
Yes, we have a syntax error here. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I will say In
Good
listening
word.
to you talk, though, Francisco,
Mhm.
I think you put the finger on why it irritated me as much as it did in hearing what why the people who are on strike irritated me a little bit,
Mm.
because your wife was all like, yeah, they got to get other jobs and blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, well, I work 8 hours a day, I have a band, I'm involved in 5 podcasts, I also have my church that I play guitar at, so I have to take care of that, and I'm learning Japanese on top of editing podcasts, and
Mhm.
it just goes down there like, bro, I wear so many freaking hats. That's just a part of what irritates me is they have to live like the rest of us who are trying to get to their level, and they're upset about it.
I could see that. And so there is, okay. That I think there is an element of, I wonder if so many of them come to Hollywood, let's say, and this is, I'm guessing at this, but come to Hollywood and you see the Tom Cruises, you see the Julia Roberts, you see all these people, they live great, and it's like, well, okay, so if I just put in the hours, I can get to that point. And oh wait, I'm not making what they're making. Well, why not? Because I'm doing the same job they're doing. But you're
So,
not, because
when
you're a
I've-
different person. Anyway.
So
go
just
ahead,
to
Dennis.
add some, because again, you're making a hypothetical that's not based
I
on real
don't
life,
have
but we
the
keep
real
going to real
numbers,
life. But let me give you
but-
some. Let me give you real life. I heard
Okay.
I was listening to some TikTok stuff guys this morning talk about the situation. They're talking about
Yeah.
within this, a lot of these writers and these actors with the work they put in, they're barely making 24K a year now,
And that's horrible.
For me, 24K is that's low. That's real low down here
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
South. In Hollywood, 24K is
Poverty.
like it is extreme poverty. Again,
Yeah.
here in the South in Shreveport over there in Tejas where Mothra is right there, it's rough for us.
Yeah,
But over
yeah.
there it's unthinkable. So these are the real life numbers that they are dealing with. It is a different culture, it's a different mindset. And there is an aspect of, and I hate when people bring in the whole, so and so makes the same money, makes more money than this person, they do the same work. Well, but they work for different companies. And that's a whole conversation. We're getting into a lot of economics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But dealing with the real life situation that we're dealing with, the hypothetical, again, it's an unfair question for us to ask because none of the four of us have the real life numbers, what's happening. We can speculate. There's a lot of things I'm hearing them like, the Netflix is probably being shady about not reporting the numbers correctly. And the CEOs are probably not paying out some stuff. At the same time, we live in a capitalistic society. You set what you have. And if you want to work for it, great. If you don't, then don't work for it. Company falls under because they don't have employees and we move on with life.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's like goes to the Bible example. It's like you agree to this. If you didn't have to agree, you can go work somewhere else. There's no one.
Well,
I think in most
not
cases,
all of us live in right to work states that can leave at any time they want.
no, but
Some of them are.
you
Some
have
people are
the,
under more contracts than that.
unless
But, yeah.
you are, and my heart, having seen Sound of Freedom recently, my heart goes out to anyone that's is under human trafficking and the human slave trade that's going on. But given you're not that, you're able to say, you're able to trade your labor for money in a way you're free to do, in the way you choose. Like I want to apply for this job. I got the job. Okay, now I'm gonna get this money. If you're able to do that, and you don't like the terms, you do not have to agree to the job. You can go seek another job, or 2 jobs, or whatever it is. I guess I'm curious, where's the mindset of I am a writer in Hollywood, I'm an actor in Hollywood, I deserve X amount, or this is how much this is supposed to get paid. I mean, I don't know how that's figured out because I'm not an actor. I know there's something called scale, which I think that based on how many hours you work on a project, that's how much you get paid at a certain ratio. But then who sets that ratio? And if that ratio, again, like, yes, I realize my pie example is hypothetical, but I think there is a problem with, there isn't enough money. There isn't the same amount of money there was when streaming was huge, like pre-COVID and all that. So I don't think you can expect to get the same amount as you were when the company. It's like, sorry, I'm going on and on. It's like, I believe the women's soccer team wanted to be making an equal amount of money to the men's soccer. I think it was the U.S. soccer team, or the U.S. I think the whole league or something wanted to be making as much as the men, but the women's soccer doesn't bring in as much money as the men's soccer. And in fact,
It is the U.S. soccer team.
the U.S. soccer team, thank you. In fact, if you
People don't
looked at
watch women's sports at the same level as men's sports.
Yes.
Is that the point you're trying to make?
well, yeah, and if you look at how much they get paid versus how much is coming in, they actually get the ratio is they get paid more than men based on the percentage of profit. So it's like it's all that to be said is you can't expect to get out more than is even put into a company. So that's all. That was what was burning on my heart to get out. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
I want to also put.
But
out
I would
there-
like pushback. I would like pushback.
I'll give you just a tiny bit of pushback.
Well,
I think John had
Go ahead,
pushback
John.
first.
Go ahead and get that out first.
Well, what I was about to say though is I think this whole situation is just being approached wrong in the first place,
Oh,
because
okay.
the problem is that they're approaching it with the same problem that we approached the banks back in 2007, which is too big to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the industry, the movie industry seems to think that it's too big to fail.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need to, and the problem is we need to let some of these film companies fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
If
If they don't use their money wisely, if they spend $300 million on Indiana Jones and only get back a small portion of that, that's on them.
and that's just it. Redistribution of wealth will only occur when those who have the wealth see the need for the redistribution.
Say that again?
Redistribution of wealth will only occur when those who have wealth see the need for the redistribution.
Okay. Which may not ever occur, essentially.
Right. Which is what I'm saying is we need to let some of those companies fail so they see the need.
Oh, okay. I see
But
what
if they don't fail, then there is no need. They'll just
Mhm.
find some other scab to fill your spot.
Ew, scabs. I always hate that term. Drew, what were you gonna be your pushback?
I was just going to push back in the way that, first off, I want it to be clear. Screw the movie studios. I don't care about them. I just want good movies and television. I think we can all agree there.
Yes. Agreed.
I am still for the idea that the writers can go strike just to make sure they're making at least the amount of money they need to survive. If this is the only way they can negotiate to do it after negotiations broke down.
Mhm.
That's the only reason the strike's happening in the first place is their negotiations to improve their the conditions they were all getting paid broke down because the producers didn't make the deal with them.
Okay. Let
That's
me
my
ask-
understanding of it. Now, that being said, all of this is we don't know exactly what's going on there in the negotiating rooms. We don't even know if the writer, even from what both the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America have even stated, we don't even know if that's exactly everything they're pushing. And I think there is some other issues that they are worried as a group that the producers may be fighting as a group back, because that's part of a lot of the issue. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling here, but I feel like I've had to keep my mouth shut for a little bit.
Oh no, go ahead.
Bear in
We are
mind,
gonna
I
close up
believe in
here
capitalism just as much as y'all, but at the
Yeah.
same time, this is how this goes. It's how it's gone for 50 years out there in Hollywood, because they've had these unions that everyone agreed to work. This union system everyone agreed to work under, and this is just them essentially fighting it out. And unfortunately, we're the ones who are going to lose, because whatever they go and make, whatever doesn't get made because they're all fighting each other, is our loss. Unless, like you said, they go and work for the indies, which I like to point out Mark Ruffalo suggested all the actors go do, so that way they can all go get work, and they're still striking against the producers and all that, and the writers can do the same stinking thing. The problem is not that there's a strike going on. The problem is I'll admit, a lot of the people striking aren't going and working anywhere else.
Drew,
Yeah.
the devil called. He wants me to advocate for him.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? You can have the job.
Do we need to pray for you, John?
Is it because Drew went on strike?
I will say this: the the reason why the conditions got to a point where writers were only making $24K annually is because there was some writer somewhere who was willing to underbid somebody else for the spot.
And a lot of that is from the onset of streaming because they thought, oh yeah, we'll work for this. It's only a 6-episode thing. We don't need as much money as we normally make, and now they're all having to pay for it.
Right, but the thing about it is, you could almost say that the condition, and this might be victim shaming. I don't care, but the condition that they're in is partly self-inflicted. Is the point
I agree.
I'm making.
I agree, and they're trying to correct it at this point, especially on the big budget stuff. Now, bear in mind, I think everyone in Hollywood needs to really rethink what they're doing because a lot of what we've gotten in recent years has been poo. But and some new blood would also be helpful.
And also
forms at all stages of the movie production.
And also, Drew, I would like to refute your statement that we lose if the writers in the writer's strike because they produce bad movies.
No, I didn't say we lose because of that. I say we're losing because we're not getting as much entertainment.
No,
granted, I'm going back. I'm watching foreign stuff, so I don't let you lose anything.
Well, but what I'm trying to say though is I am proof that bad movies and bad TV shows are still amazing. I have a podcast all about that, and no matter how bad movies and TV are a lot like pizza. No matter how bad it is, it's still good on some kind of level.
John, are you aware that the Cellcast has a bad movie month where we pretty much stole your concept and review bad animated movies?
Well, imitation is the highest form of flattery.
I enjoy it for that. What I mean by bad is the stuff that's not even interesting. The stuff that's just dull and should not have ever been made in the first place.
Well, then you're just not the target audience for that movie, because there's going to be somebody somewhere.
I debate who the target audience is besides the corporate fat cats.
Oh, come on now! Don't yuck somebody else's yum. Out there somewhere is a Uwe Boll fanboy.
I weep for
is
that
there? Let's go ahead and close that.
I own a copy of The Room by Tommy Wiseau. I think my appreciation of bad movies is well known.
We're gonna close up. We're gonna close up now. But Dallas,
hi, Mark.
Why don't you have?
We are getting to fighting about stupid stuff now.
Why don't you give us the last word on this topic?
Word.
Boo! No, I want some more gravitas.
I mean, I feel like we've gone in circles about the subject pretty heavily.
We have.
Bottom line, people need to get paid fairly. Now, how that plays out is dependent on contracts and fight for your stuff. Go talk to people. If you can't get a deal, walk out, change your stuff, do something different. They're doing that. They're on strike, fighting for what they want. Good on you. I'm proud of you. Gets to a point though where maybe you're going to have to step to the side and do something different. In the production studios, who, let's be honest with you, have a lot of shady things taking place already. They're going to have to make a decision to make some choices. And so that's just where it's at.
Yep. Absolutely.
Also, I'd like to point out that the last time we had both the writers and actors strike at the same time was in the 60s. And it was right after that you get like most of our modern classic cinema. Just throwing that out there as maybe a possible renaissance is coming.
That's fair.
I'm reluctant to depend on past. I
am too. It's just
patterns.
Patterns do happen sometimes, so we'll just have to see how things go, one way or the other.
Dallas, what are you rage typing, bro?
Nothing. That's Francisco typing.
Oh.
I'm just getting something prepped for the very end. So while I'm doing that,
I'm now worried what you're doing.
No,
I just feel like everyone needs to look in the private chat here in a little bit.
Yes, exactly. It's gonna be fine. It's nothing big. Thank you guys so much for this awesome conversation, especially since it went longer than we anticipated. 2 hours. Oh my gosh. Let's go around. Please, why don't we say what you can promote one of your shows and what the latest episode on that show is that you want people to check out. Or it may not be the latest, it's just one that you definitely want people to check out. Let's start with Drew.
Come back to me. I gotta think which one is a good one to promote.
Let's start with John then.
What are we doing?
Self-promotion.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pick one show or
And-
one episode.
In one episode, exactly.
I will say that Playing Games with Strangers just released our big bad boss fight this week. So go check that out because you can watch some unexpected circumstances to happen in that one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Sorry, if I go into details, I'm going to end up spoiling stuff. So
no worries. Dallas.
Oh, geez, Louise, man. I don't know. I put out 4 shows a week. I'll go with the most recent one, and that was the Gundam Watch. We're back from outer space. We had some crazed Asian Cajun give us some orders, and we gave our quick thoughts on the trailer for Requiem for Vengeance, which you guys saw us discuss a little bit here. If you wanted forward thoughts, we had a 20-minute conversation on the 45-second clip, so check that out. And then it's coming up in a week or two. We'll have another episode where we'll be talking about our next leg of our conversation on Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. And what's cool about that episode specifically is for the Gundam Wing conversations, my sister has been a part of them, and she's a licensed professional counselor. In this particular episode, we get into some pretty deep conversations about dissociated identity disorder.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so it got really, really interesting. And I want to encourage you guys to subscribe and check that out.
Very cool. Whatever it is, I can't remember. Let's go with Drew. Are you ready now?
Yes, I'm ready now.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm from the Cellcast podcast where we review animated movies and television shows, and I'm going to promote the episode we literally just released, like yesterday or Sunday, whatever day this is. Our episode reviewing Despicable Me 2, not because we gave it a glowing review, but because the way we went back and forth was very entertaining. It was a fun episode between me and Jacob talking about that interesting, cheap film. So, yeah.
Nice. Very cool. And I want to promote the Retro Rewind podcast tomorrow. If you're listening to this live, tomorrow we will be dropping our episode on Explorers, the 1985 film Explorers. And it was a great conversation. Definitely worth checking out. And if you are a supporter of the show, there will be an Edna mode outtake for this one, where I had a horrible gaffe in something I said. So you'll get to hear that if you support the show at $5 or more over on Locals. But thank you all so much, John and Drew and Dallas. Really appreciate your guys' time. Everyone who watched, Ashley, Bobo, Neko, Paladin, who else?
Appledance.
Appledance, everyone who came over for the raid at Geekery.
Valendro.
Dale, Valendro, everyone, thank you so much for hanging out. And we all hope you have a great evening. But like a Pokemon, we'll catch you
In the next frame.
stay fresh, cheese.
Peace and love.
whatever it is. Bags, say your thing.
I was just going by the script you handed me.
Okay. Type fast enough.
Oh, Jiminy Crickets.
Welcome to the Culture Box, ladies and gentlemen.
You're gonna finish it, Dallas.
I already did.
Did you say peace and love?
I did.
I didn't hear you over the cheese bag fiasco of 2023.
Still say it should be
Was Francisco?
love and peace. But anyway.
Peace and love.
Thank you. Bye, guys.